Welcome to W Media.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and doing this with you.
Absolutely. Really just a warm welcome. Thrilled to have you as part of the IE Mindset group team as our VP of Athletics. It was a great announcement last week. Had a lot of good dialogue with folks over the last week or so, and really want to just spend the next 60 minutes to find out a little bit about you. What is mental performance coaching, who you work with, what type of outcomes you get. Sure. And then maybe if folks want to work with us, how they can contact us. So
Great.
Before we dive into all that, why don't you just give us some perspective relative to your background, where you came from, your career, and sort of what's culminated and led you to where you're at today.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks. Thanks again for having me. Thanks again for allowing me to join the team. Excited about this opportunity and what the future holds for us. I'm originally from the UP, small town called Bessemer, Michigan. Came down to Western. 4 years there, was a math major. All I ever wanted to be was a math teacher and a coach. I know that sounds crazy, but that's all I wanted to be. Left Western, went to St. Joseph High School. I've been there now for 30 years, served as a math teacher and coach of many sports for 9 years. Then my 10th year, became the athletic director. I'm now in my 21st year as athletic director at St. Joseph High School. It's a great community. It's a great school district. My family loves it. I love it. Not quite done with the work that I need to do there. So I'm still fired up to go to work every single day. And then, as the athletic director, you're always looking, how do you get a competitive advantage for your athletes against the opponents?
Mm-hmm.
And St. Joseph High School is pretty lucky. We got a great weight room. We got great coaches. It seemed like everything was clicking, but there was something missing as well. And about 2016, I attended a conference in Chicago. A guy by the name of Brian Kane kind of turned me on to mental performance, as he's kind of the guru, in my opinion, the GOAT of mental performance in the country. And it just opened up different perspectives for me to think about as an athletic director. So brought some of those back, brought Brian back to work with our team, our coaches, our athletes, our teachers for that matter. And I thought that was a missing ingredient that our coaches and athletes and teams were missing. So I kind of dove into it head first, really drank the Kool-Aid, was really fired up. And then I looked at myself, like, this really helps me become the best version of myself. So I think it changed my life professionally and personally. So we brought a lot of those tactics, ideas, strategies to the high school. I brought them to myself. One thing led to another. I really studied mental performance, got certified as a mental performance coach through Brian's program. And now I've branched out to do some work with Brian, to do some work for myself, now joining your team. And I love helping people when it comes to letting them look at things differently, letting them see that you can be the greatest physical gifted athlete there is, but if you don't have the mindset to go with it, you'll probably never reach your full potential.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Great background. And so from your perspective, I mean, I think a lot of people, like when I first learned about Brian and mental performance coaching and just talking to you and going through the certification process, I think a lot of people might think sports psychologist, or they watch the show Billions, think about Wendy Rhodes and those types of things. So for the audience, if you could, just what exactly is mental performance coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a big difference between mental health and mental performance coaching. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that, and I don't want to be. That's not my background. Mental performance coaching is helping, I say student athletes because that's the domain I work with, but it's really helping anybody to give them strategies to become the best that they can be in whatever profession or area that they live in. So for me, if it's a student athlete at the high school level, collegiate level, professional level, it's giving them the strategies, the day-to-day routines and habits that they can engage in on a consistent and disciplined basis to help them achieve levels they've never received before. And unfortunately, in our world, people don't buy into that as much, right? There's so much time spent on the physical part. And I know as an athletic director watching athletics 3-4 nights a week all year long, like the mental game is a huge piece of this. And it's just unfortunate we don't spend enough time teaching it. We expect kids. So Bill, here's the biggest thing. We expect teenagers to be able to handle their emotions. Most adults can't handle their emotions. Yet we expect kids to, or we hope that they will.
Right.
And hope's not a good strategy. So where I come in is try and give athletes that I work with specific strategies to help them when it matters most. To me, that's, if I had to sum up mental performance, is when it matters most, can you perform your best? Mm-hmm. And without a good mental performance background, I just don't think that's possible.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, here in our community in Rockford, similar to St. Joe, There's a lot of time spent on sort of the functional piece. So, you've got time on task as a baseball player or a basketball player, football player on the field with your teammates, repping out the actual sport, right? A lot of individual athletes are doing time at a place here in West Michigan called Power Strength, similar to what you all have in St. Joe at Renaissance. So they're concentrating on sort of those functional, tactical time on task, whether it's with the actual sport itself, with the quarterback coach or a wide receivers coach or a pitching coach, or strength and agility outside of what they're already doing at school.
Right.
But when you talk about mental performance, and I've heard you say it before, it's like you ask a coach, maybe a baseball coach, how much of this game is mental? I mean, what do they say? What type of feedback do you get?
The average is 80, 90%. Okay. That's across all sports.
Right. So to think about that and make that transition, we're spending all our time on task on the physical aspects, whether it's strength and agility or your actual sport with hitting, those types of things. But 80% of the game is mental, and we're not doing anything to incorporate that individually or sometimes as a team. It's kind of like, hey, Johnny, get him next time, right? Or, hey, have confidence. I mean, what does that mean? Johnny wants to have confidence, but he just swung and missed twice. It's the district championship. The guy's throwing 90 mile an hour gas on the mound, and he's thinking, I hope I just don't miss this. If Johnny's thinking, I hope I just don't miss this, he doesn't have a chance at hitting the ball.
He does.
So what's he doing to step out of the box to reset himself to figure out, where's my confidence at?
Correct. So a lot of things to unpack there.
Okay.
Number one, confidence. Confidence, I think there's a disconnect with what people think confidence is. Confidence is not a feeling, it's an action. Confidence is something you do, not what you feel. Results come from being confident. Confidence doesn't come from getting the results that you want, because the results that you want typically are non-controllable. So we have to teach people how to do confidence, how to act confident, because when you act confident, you'll feel more confident. It really doesn't work the other way around. And back to your point about 80, 90% mental, whatever the sport is, I'm fortunate enough to teach coaches across the state from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. I do a lot of coaching classes on the weekends, and I always throw that question out. Doesn't matter what sport you are, spring sport coaches, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis.
Yeah.
What percentage is your sport mental? And I usually have them stand. 50% stand up, everybody stands. 60% stay standing, everybody stays standing. 70%, some people start dropping. 80%, some people, but typically at 80, 50% of the coaches are still standing. Follow-up question, how much are you devoting to teaching the mental game? And then all of a sudden you see these empty looks like, ooh, not doing that. And that's not the point to make them feel bad. What I'm saying is, if you think your sport is 60, 70, 80% mental, and you're not teaching the mental game at all, how is that fair to your athletes? Like, we have to be the ones to help them with this. If you think it's 70%, I'm not saying take 70% of your practice time and teach the mental game, because then they're not going to be able to, swing a bat.
Sure.
But could you take 30 minutes a week, 10 minutes a day? Could you implement some of the strategies that will help them perform? Like you said, bottom of the seventh.
Yeah.
2 outs, runner on third. I'm coming up to bat. Is my heart coming out of my chest because I'm so nervous? And that's a common emotion. What's not common is having a strategy to deal with it. And there are strategies to deal with pressure and anxiety. But we don't do enough teaching of the kids. So that's where I like to come in. That's where I think we can lead, is helping coaches get strategies to help their student athletes perform their best when it matters most.
Well, and I think to your point, it's like in the sales environment where I spent 20 years, there's situational leadership. It's called willing and unwilling and able and unable. I know all those coaches are willing, but if they don't have the strategies, the only tools they can think in their head is, let's put in Hoosiers, or let's put in a movie and inspire everybody based on a story, instead of, there's that story and that's great, but then again, what's happening when it's on the field? So really all good points. So I would think from a listener's perspective, they may think that mental performance coaching is, who you serve as maybe just the individual athlete. So if you could sort of, zoom back for a second, and from a 30,000 foot view, just broad strokes, talk to us about who you serve with mental performance coaching.
Yeah. I mean, the way I'd answer that question, the way I will answer that question, is everybody. Because mental performance is about helping you.
Yeah.
The mom, the dad, the CEO, the coach, the teacher, the mechanic is helping you be your best. So it doesn't really matter to me what the profession is. Now, obviously, the majority of the people I serve are athletes. They're teams. So I serve everywhere from college teams, college athletes. I have one professional client, high school teams, high school athletes, middle school teams, travel teams, anybody from basically age 10 to, I think my oldest client's been 58, and that was a rodeo client. So everything in between, from baseball to rodeo to ice skating to lacrosse, you name it, it's all in there. But what are these people doing? They're asking for help in an area that they feel they're deficient.
Right.
They're willing to get better. And that's just like you said earlier, if a parent or a baseball player feels they're deficient in pitching, what do? They hire a pitching coach. They get extra help on the side. They get extra attention, if you will. It's no different. So what we offer is, how do we help kids, athletes, adults get the extra help they need when it comes to their mindset and their mindfulness?
Absolutely. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't necessarily want to divulge company names or what have you, but one of the inspirational stories that you told me as I contemplated IE Mindset, as I contemplated getting involved with Brian's organization and Mental Performance Mastery, was that, I'm sort of on that side of the fence right now relative to my background and engaging with the corporate environment, those sales organizations. And you told a great story about, I think, how when you brought Brian down to St. Joe to engage with your athletes and your coaches, that turned from feedback to the community, and then somebody from the community at a larger corporation reached out and had Brian do an event for them. Yeah. So there was that synergy and transition that you just spoke of.
Absolutely. So again, Brian, fortunate for me, I've become good friends with Brian over the years and had many great opportunities to work with him with different college levels. Our highlight was working with Kyler Murray when he was a dual sport athlete at Oklahoma. But when I met Brian in Chicago, I left Chicago saying, I got to get this guy to work with our kids, with our coaches. And Brian's expensive because he's so good. He's so wanted. And this was back in 2016-17, but we fundraised. Our public school foundation gave us a grant to bring Brian in. So Brian worked our first year in the summer of 2017. He worked with just our coaches and our athletes.
Okay.
The superintendent heard about this amazing speaker that came in, this motivational guy who kind of transformed our culture a little bit, and said, gosh, would this guy ever come and work with every employee at St. Joseph Public Schools? So we did some research, we did some vetting, and Brian had done that in a couple of schools. One was in Texas, and one was, I actually think, Ionia, that he had come in and worked with every staff member. So we contacted Brian and said, would you do this? Would you come in to do our opening day kickoff, our first day before students arrive on campus, our first day back with every employee from bus drivers, custodians, teachers to the superintendent, everybody? And he was like, absolutely. So he came in and just did our first day kickoff, and it was the best opening day celebration we've ever had because he just uplifted people. And his concept was this: if you want to be the best for kids, if you want to be the best teacher, the best bus driver, the best administrative assistant, you got to be the best for yourself first. You have to take care of yourself first. You cannot lead others unless you lead yourself. So he gave us strategies, ideas, inspiration for all of us to get fired up. And we started that year in a bang. It was so good that the following year, our superintendent said, we're going to bring him back for another year. So this is 3 years in a row. And he actually wrote a book called The 1% Attention that was based on, he didn't use our name, but based on our school district. Everybody got a copy of it. Our theme of that year was get 1% better. 1% every day is 1424. We can talk about that later. But so he came back 3 years in a row and kind of really transcended our culture a little bit about how to be the best for those that you're trying to lead.
Yeah, no, it's powerful. I think it just really highlights, to your point, it's leadership, it's mindset, it's 1% better every day. It applies to everybody individually, as a team, as an organization, and it's powerful. So if we're talking specifically with athletics, because that's going to kind of be our focus and our working relationship, and certainly your background and what you're passionate about. So relative to, say, like a sports team, let's take baseball, for example, give the listeners an idea of like what that ideal engagement might look like. Okay. What does that mean? How does it work? How long? Is it the whole team? Then as an individual, if you could kind of paint a picture for us, that'd be really helpful.
Well, I'll give you an example of right now. I'm working with Seton Hill University, Division II baseball team in Pennsylvania. I think right now in Division II, they're ranked 21st, started the season 18th. Okay. Also just got done working with Central Missouri baseball. They're currently Division II, ranked number 2 in the country. So 2 good collegiate baseball teams. What we do is we set up a meeting with the coaches. So I meet with the coaches at a time, kind of lay out a plan. That plan typically consists of doing 10 Zoom calls, 10 30-minute Zoom calls over 10 weeks. So 1 call a week for 30 minutes with everybody. I prefer all the athletes to be on their own device, mainly because it's easier for me to make connections. So if everybody's in one room, it's hard for me to say, hey, Bill. But if everybody has their own device, their names are there, the matrix is there, I can see faces, I can make that personal connection. So we do it 30 minutes. We have 10 pillars we go through: elite mindset, confidence, routines and habits of excellence, time management, organization, leadership. There's 10 pillars altogether, but one call every 30 minutes. The biggest piece of that is the follow-up. So then I try to follow up with these athletes. Seton Hill, I think, had 44 baseball players. So I would try and pick off 5 a day and shoot them a text. Hey, what'd you learn? Tell me something you're getting better from. What did you learn? How did you improve today? Just to make those connections. With both those programs, I'm done with those 10 calls, but now we have extra. So the players, actually, I have a text from a player right now who's asking me for advice. They have that open connection. They can connect with me anytime they want. Sure. That's part of the package. So if they need some help, actually last Saturday, Central Missouri, their coaches called me Saturday morning and said, hey, we got 2 guys, 2 studs, great team players, hard workers, but they're struggling in the box. You can see they're not confident. Can you reach out to them tonight? Yeah, not a problem. So I sent them each text. So let's do a quick Zoom tomorrow morning. We end up doing phone calls because of their busy schedule, but just a quick 15, 20-minute conversation of, listen, let's get back to the basics.
Yeah.
Like, are you going through your routine? And the routine actually starts when they're 3 batters out. The routine, when they're 4th in the hole, their routine starts. When they get in the on-deck circle, we're intentional about everything they do. When they walk from the on-deck circle to a batter's box, first step, first key to keep it simple. Second step, second key to keep it simple. Third step, third key to keep it simple. When you get in the batter's box, swipe the dirt, take possession of that box. Now you do your pre-pitch routine based on the scenario. Do you do a green light release, a yellow light release, a red light release? So we're very intentional about everything we do. So they just needed to get back to the basics. They needed to hear from somebody else than their own coaches. So 15 minutes, that's all they needed with me.
Wonderful. And I think the one thing that I love about the mental performance mastery process and methodology, and it's something that I'm utilizing in my business today, just launching IE Mindset in January. It's early March. I'm a results-oriented guy. I was in sales for 25 years. I want to see the win, the tangible win. I want that client. I want to get on stage and speak. I want to do a workshop. I want to engage with folks. And I think what I learned is that you need to be elite and fall in love with the process and not the outcome, right? There's a lot of things we can't control. We can't control if we win the game. We can't necessarily control if we lose the game, but we can certainly control how we prepare and how we feel. You know?
Pillar number 5, process over outcome. It's my favorite pillar by far.
Okay.
Because to me, it's all about exactly, first of all, what you said. What do we control? What do we don't control? Mm-hmm. We never control the outcome. I could be working with Rockford baseball. They could have the best team they've ever had in school history. It doesn't guarantee they'll win one game. Right. Why? Because they don't control the opponent.
Yeah.
What they do control is their process, showing up every day, trying to get a little bit better every single day, having the energy, a great attitude, giving 100% effort. And when you focus on that process of the controllables, the results take care of themselves. Like, I like to say this. Well, we should be teaching kids, especially at the high school level, we should be teaching them how to be winners, not how to win games. There's a big difference. How to win games is outcome focused. It's a scoreboard. It's a number. It's a non-controllable. We want to teach kids how to be winners, which means they have a growth mindset. There's no such thing as winning and losing. It's only winning and learning. So at the end of a game, either way, you're going to reflect and get better. Because isn't that the goal, that we just want to get a little bit better every single day?
Right. Well, and I heard you on a podcast earlier this week with Todd, which was great, by the way.
Thank you.
Very nice setup and really enjoyed the dialogue. And I think you talked about what's the 1% mean, and I think you mentioned about the 1424. Mm-hmm. What if you could expand on that? I thought it was pretty impactful.
Yeah, that's my only claim to fame with Brian Kane.
Okay.
So when he did this 1% better and wrote this book, I said, Brian, listen, what does 1% better really mean? And you hear this in leadership all the time.
Jim Harbaugh talks about it.
And I like it because everybody thinks, well, it means we got to get a little bit better. But I just have a hard time thinking kids understand what does 1% better actually mean. So being a math nerd, there's 1,440 minutes in a day. If you take 1% of that, it's 14 minutes, 24 seconds. It's not 14 minutes, 40 seconds, by the way, because you got to take a fraction of the minute. Trust me, it's 14 minutes, 24 seconds. Okay, people will question me and be like, are you sure? Yes, I'm positive. So I'm like, Brian, when we teach this, you got to talk about, if you want to get 1% better, what does that mean? Invest in yourself for 14 minutes, 24 seconds. So for instance, at St. Joseph High School, every November, at least for the last probably 6 years, I lead our entire district, those that want to. I just send out an email saying, hey, who wants to participate in the No Days Off 1% Better Challenge? And I just create a big Google Doc, and anybody who emails me, I put them in the first column. Second column is your 1% attention, reading, exercise, yoga, scriptures, whatever they want. Yeah. And then November 1st, November 2nd, November 30th. And then you just put in, can you invest in yourself for 1424? The answer is yes, right? But some people, I don't have time. That's simply not true. Everybody has 14 minutes, 24 seconds in their day. It's just, are you living out of discipline or default, courage or comfort, right? 1424 is not too much to ask for. It might be for kids, putting the Xbox away, putting TikTok away, putting Netflix away. For adults, it could be Netflix as well, whatever. But if you could just invest in yourself for 14 minutes, 24 seconds every day, then the compound effect takes place. Just like putting money in a bank, you get compound interest.
Yeah.
So same thing in life. Darren Hardy wrote a great book called The Compound Effect, and that's what he explains in the book, that if you keep putting in the time every single day, in the long run, you're going to get a lot better because you keep building on your previous success. In James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which is a must read for anybody who's listening.
Okay.
Atomic Habits by James Clear. He has a graph, and it might be on his website, but he talks about it in his book as well. 1% better. If you do a theoretical mathematical equation, which is called exponential growth, 1.01 raised to the 365th power, you're about 38 times better at the end of 1 year than when you started. Wow. Now, obviously, that's a theoretical equation, but think about this. Yeah. That's how much better you can improve in your life, any area that you choose, just by investing in yourself for about 15 minutes a day.
Well, I mean, if you think about it in the physical world, you think about a cliff near an ocean. The waves are crashing every day. They're hitting that side, and you don't see anything happen. But over time, you see it erode. I mean, it's so 100%. Well, a lot to unpack there, and I do want to get to talking a little bit about serving athletic directors and the coaches as well. And I know we're talking a little bit about the individual athletes, but to stay there and to really kind of the devil's in the details relative to things like discipline, accountability, consistency. So give me an example of some tools and tactics. I know we're big on the Habit Share app, those types of things. What are your individual athletes or ADs or corporations that you're working with? What are they doing to stay accountable, to stay consistent, and to stay disciplined?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it's just little things, right? We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just trying to do a little, a lot, rather than a lot, a little. Mm-hmm. So what type of daily habits and routines can you alter in your life that when done consistently over time, you'll see the results that you want? So it may be something like routines. So I'm a big believer in bookending your day. You have the most control of your life when you first wake up, AM routine, and when you get ready for bed, PM routine. Everywhere in between there, they want your attention. They want your time, right? As soon as you leave your house, or whether it's you got small kids at home, people want your attention. But when you first wake up, typically you have about 30 minutes to yourself. What do you do with that time? Do you sit and listen to talk show radio and have a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing, but I bet you can use your time more wisely for that first 30 minutes. So can you create a routine when you first wake up to sweat before screens, get some exercise in? I'm into this new morning cocktail, I call it. It's just filtered water, Himalayan sea salt, and lemon juice, because it really replenishes your electrolytes and magnesium and gets you hydrated from getting a little dehydrated over sleeping. So what can you do in the morning? Maybe some affirmations, maybe some scripture reading, maybe it's just some journaling, but take advantage of the time that you have before others want your attention. And then in the evening, what do you do? How do you close out your day? How do you clear the neutral? Do you have 2 voicemails, 5 text messages, a couple of emails that are lingering? And if you don't answer them, you're going to think about them and not get to that deep sleep that you need to perform the next day. What can you do the night before to set yourself up for success the following day? And it might be as simple as, do you pick out your outfit if you're working the night before? Yeah. And people might say, like, does that really matter? Well, there's something out there called decision fatigue.
Oh.
And if you're worried all day long about little things, by the end of the day, you've made so many decisions that you're tired of it, and then you don't make the best decisions anymore because you're fatigued of those. Yeah. So lay out your clothes the night before. Look at Steve Jobs. Look at Zuckerberg, Facebook. If you ever noticed, typically Brian Kane, they wear the same clothes, same color every single day. When I first met Brian, I'm like, Brian, are you Secret Service? Is there something I should know about you? You always wear black. And he said, yeah, then I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about matching. I wear black all the time. Now, I have seen him lately. I feel like he's expanded his wardrobe a little bit, but for the most part, he's just trying to eliminate simple decisions. So that's one thing. You mentioned Habit Share. It's a great app. It's a free app. Habit Share is what we call a success checklist.
Mm-hmm.
You simply download the app, you create a success checklist. Like, what do I need to do today to have a good day? Not a perfect day, because perfect really doesn't exist. What do I need to do today to have a good day? So you list out habits that you want to do on a daily basis. And then you go in once a day, maybe twice a day, and just mark them green or red. The more green, the better. The more red means you got to get better the next day. There's no such thing as that perfect day, right? Most people have a little bit of red, and that's okay. Then we should abide by what I call the never miss twice rule. Right? You don't want to miss the same habit twice in a row, because once you miss it twice, chances are you're going to miss it 3 times in a row. So, and that's called life, right? We're not always going to get to everything we want to do to help us get to where we want to be. The beautiful thing about Habit Share, let's say you and I are sharing, Billy, and we got to get you on that, by the way.
I'm on.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Then we got to start.
my son Ethan. We've got it going. Yeah, absolutely.
So you share with other people.
Yeah.
And although I'm not a big fan of notifications on my phone, because notifications are distractions, I do keep all my notifications on from Habit Share. So I could look at my phone right now, probably have over 100 notifications from all the teams and people that I work with. But that's me saying, gosh, they're doing what they say they're going to do. Right. And if not, then I can go into the app, send them a quick message saying, hey, are you okay? Let's go. Right. And I get it too. Like, there's nothing better
there's
for
the
me.
accountability for you too, because to your point, if you're not holding your end of the bargain up, they can see that. It keeps you accountable all day long as well.
Well, it's the ultimate motivator, because if I'm selling teams I'm working with on this app, and I share my habits with them, there's no way I can be red. There's no way. So there are times at 10:30 at night, I'm still doing some of these things to check off my green, because what type of model am I? What type of leader am I if I'm not doing what I'm telling them to do? So that's a great app.
Yeah, and I think to sum it up, and one of the sort of tactics and tools that we use is the MVP process, right? Our mission, our vision, our principles. I really think it's important for organizations and athletes individually, but together, to understand, hey, what's your mission? For me, it's to inspire, empower, and transform individuals. The vision, how are we getting there? What are we doing? What are those tactics? And then to your point, with the affirmations, with the above the line, the below the line behaviors, those types of things, I think to have one living, breathing document that you can update, that you can look at. There's a lot of things, a lot of research that I've been seeing that even with affirmations, instead of typing them out, you need to write those out. And so that's what I do. My word for 2025 is believe. And I've got certain affirmations, and I write those out every morning, and I think about those before I go to bed.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so we talked about the athletes, we talked about some tactics. So, one thing that I thought was that could be really beneficial when I look at what we're doing with IE Mindset and what we're talking about with inspiring, empowering individuals and athletes and teams is, instead of just thinking about the coach and the team, instead of thinking about just the coach, the team, and the athletes, to kind of zoom back and to say first, like, where does it all start at? It starts with leadership, right? So give me an idea of working with an individual program, whether it be at the high school, collegiate, or even maybe the professional level, where we could engage with the leaders and maybe not even necessarily get to the individual athletes. Certainly we'd like to, and we'd like to be beneficial, but sort of like a train the trainer, if you will.
Yeah.
Do you have any situations where you could kind of give us an example of where you just work with the ADs and the organization and those folks that are teaching the young men and women?
So the example that comes to my mind is Mattoon High School out of Illinois.
Okay.
I worked with them every week throughout this past summer, and it was all their coaches, middle school, high school, and their entire district administrative team. So principals, assistant principals, superintendents. And we went through the 10 pillars, but we kind of targeted it more towards the leadership piece. So in your case, yes, we're training the trainers, no athletes involved. So it was kind of a twofold approach. Number one, how can we use these 10 pillars of mental performance to help all of you get better? And then let me also give you examples and ideas of how to implement this with your teams. So when I worked with that set of coaches and administrators, the calls were a little bit longer because we always wanted to take those 2 steps, right? Let's take 15 to 20 minutes on how does this impact yourself? Let's take 15 to 20 minutes on how can you take what you've learned today and bring it to your student athletes for your cross-country program, your football program, your soccer program. So in that case, we followed it up with, it's about a 4-hour drive. They asked if I'd come down in August to kind of do their kickoff day. So all of Brian Kane, I got to go down to do their first day of teachers at Mattoon High School and take them through a
full circle.
Yeah. It was great. It was great. Got down there, met all their coaches that I've seen on Zoom all summer long.
Yeah.
Did an hour-long activity with every teacher in the building, and we did a one-word focus activity similar to what you said. Pick a word that you're going to be very intentional with for the entire school year. That one word, and they made posters for every classroom with that word. So every time when you walk in a classroom, you look at that word, intentional. How am I going to be intentional today with my athletes, with my students? So I had a great time down there, but it was that coach the coaches more. Their athletic director and myself, I've stayed in touch. I get habit shares from their superintendent. My phone's popping all the time with a lot of coaches from there because they wanted to improve their culture. And using the 10 pillars of mental performance, I think we did that.
Wonderful. Yeah. So one point that I definitely want to touch on. So it's got to be pretty interesting as you engage with these teams and these young athletes when you engage with the parents. So I got to assume that the parents are a big part of this. I'm sure they can be advocates. I'm sure they can be detractors. So I won't lead you to water on that, but just curious, open-ended question. Talk to me about the role of the parent in mental performance coaching.
Yeah, so typically, if I'm working with a middle school, high school kid, I will start off by meeting with their parents.
Okay.
Like I want to know what their expectations are, kind of the background of the student athlete. And as an educator myself, I want them to know that they could be on any call. I record every call I do on Zoom. I create a Google Drive, so all the resources, all the videos are there. I give access to the parents. I'm not hiding anything. I don't want them to think I'm, some weirdo talking about hocus pocus.
Yeah.
This is all real stuff that we're trying to teach these kids. So I get the parents involved for sure. At the college level, parents typically are not involved, but they still want to know, is their kid getting better? Because they're making an investment. So I love when parents call me and check in because I'll be honest. We probably should have started with this, Bill. Mental performance is a trainable skill set.
Okay.
It's not magic. It's not voodoo. It's not hocus pocus. You only get better at mental performance is if you do the work, right? As a former baseball coach, how did your teams get better at bunting?
Right. Yeah. Rep it out.
Yeah. So how do you get better at mental performance? You rep it out. If somebody's going to make an investment to work with me and they're only going to listen and think about it for 30 minutes once a week, they're not going to get any better. But if they rep it out, if they practice it, because it is a trainable skill set, I'm going to give them some drills. They're going to practice those drills to get a better skill set in mental performance. Then we see improvements. I just talked to a Division I basketball player this week who started the year off really, really well, ending the year struggling a little bit. And I simply said, we got to get brilliant with the basics. If we look back at our notes, back when we started this process, this journey together, you habit share, making your bed, AM routine, listening to podcasts, checking in with me. Give me a rating right now where you're at.
Right.
And he said 5 out of 10. I go, well, you just answered our question.
Right.
Right. You're not being intentional with everything we talked about. And honestly, Bill, that's why so few people are ultimately successful. Because the work is boring. The work is mundane. It's every day. Right? Michael Phelps became the most glorified Olympian in the history of the Olympics. Why? He never took a day off. Right? He had a philosophy that we're going to swim on Christmas. We're going to swim on New Year's Day. Because over a course of 4 years, that might be 40 more days in the swimming pool than my opponents. And those 40 more days may equate to a half a second better.
Right.
So you got to fall in love with the process of doing the work every day. There are no days off on the road to excellence. There are no days off.
No.
I mean, you can have bad days, you can have good days, but if you have goals of being the best that you can be, maybe being a Division I athlete, maybe being a professional athlete, that's really hard to do. And all you have to do is look at the statistics. It's really hard to do, which means you have to do things differently.
Yeah.
You can't do what everybody else does. I mean, that's usually my hook when I work with anybody. Listen, if you're doing what everybody else does, if you're a golfer and you're playing golf every day and you're going to the range every day for 4 hours, you're doing what everybody else is doing. So if you have a goal of being a Division I golfer, you got to do something differently. So if you do what everybody else does, you get what everybody else gets. Let me help you do things differently. Let me help you change your perspective. Golf is for sure a mental game. And if you're not strong mentally, I don't care how good you are on the golf course, you're probably never going to reach your full potential. So let's change our perspective. Let's look at things differently, and let me help you with the mental game so that when you get on the course and you get nervous, you're able to perform your best.
Yeah. So, we talked a lot about the, the different groups that you serve, that we're going to serve together. And we talked about, sort of the structure, whether it's one-on-one individual, team, athletic director, what have you. Somebody listening to this podcast, whether they're an athlete, they're a coach, they're an AD, they're kind of hearing a lot. Maybe they haven't participated. For the most part, I would say what I've came into contact with just in my short period of talking about this, you've been doing it longer. A lot of people don't really know about it. What are some sort of, if you want to think about outcomes, things that folks can really understand? If I do mental performance, I'm going to get this, because everybody's always looking for that edge, but we're not guaranteeing wins. We're not guaranteeing D1 scholarships. We're not guaranteeing any of that. So trying to put, even thinking about it from a medical device sales guy that used to sell devices, and what we were looking at was outcomes for the patients.
Right.
So what kind of outcomes could be expected, assuming that there's that consistency, that discipline, that accountability?
Yeah, I can relate that to habit share. One of my favorite clients is a golfer from a VCU, Virginia Commonwealth, and probably been working with him for close to 2 years. He has 51 habits on his habit share, and he turns every one of them green every single day. And I think to myself, now that's extreme, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But it works for him and it makes him feel good. So at the beginning of our process together, there was no structure. He was a college kid. He was staying up late. He was probably making poor decisions on the weekends. He wasn't working as hard. His diet wasn't very good. His sleep wasn't very good. So we attack all that. We attack all of it. What does your sleep look like? What does your nutrition look like? What does your hydration look like? What does your schedule look like? If you're not on Google Calendar and scheduling your days, you're falling behind. So we implemented what I would just call a better process into his life.
Okay.
So when I look at outcomes, I think, gosh, look at this kid. This kid's amazing. Look at the discipline he's had now all along. Now, there's been peaks and valleys, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But right now he's peaking because he has such structure in his life. And to me, that's the best outcome I can have, right? We're focusing on the process of getting better. And his process is top notch. And I think that'll lead to really good results. There are no guarantees, again, because that's a non-controllable. So when I look at outcomes on working with people, the big picture is, am I helping them become the best version of themselves? Now, I say that a lot. It's a cliche. But to me, that's what it's all about. And I tell parents and I tell athletes I work with, oh, you're coming to me for softball? We're not going to talk about softball for the first 4 weeks. Well, that's what we want our help with. Good. Well, what we're going to do is make you a better person. We're going to build some discipline into your life, because when you have more discipline in your life, you'll have more discipline on the softball field. And when I see that you're making your bet every day, when I see that you're doing your habit share every day, when I see that you're doing some journaling, then we're ready, because now you're building discipline into your life. It's really easy to make that transition to the softball field or whatever field that may be, but we got to start it in their life first. And that's not always a popular answer. People want, as you know, people want instant results, instant success. Yeah. That's just not life. So we got to teach them how to be better on a day-to-day basis. Start stacking days. I won today, good, let's win tomorrow as well. And you start stacking wins, and all of a sudden 3-4 days turn into a week, like a couple of weeks turn into a month, and you see this transformation. The problem is most people don't have the patience to get that far. Right. So I'm there just as their accountability partner to hold them accountable. Like, listen, the magic's about to happen. You just got to stay patient with the process. So when you talk about outcomes, I'm just looking at, like, do they have the discipline to do what they're supposed to do?
Right. Well, and I even heard in our conversations previously, certainly if you're working with a team or an athlete over an 8 to 12 week period, your first several calls may have absolutely nothing to do sports related whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
No. And sometimes and I get it, right? If I'm a high school kid, I want to talk about
make my bed,
football.
Yeah.
Right, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Why do I have to make my bed? I mean, the best example I can give, and we'll just use Seton Hill baseball.
Yeah.
All right. We're talking about creating better habits in your life and AM routines. And hey, everybody, college kids living in dorms and apartments. Tomorrow morning, I want all of you to make your bed and text me a picture of your bed made. And they look at you like, are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. And here's why. Because you don't win the day unless you win the morning. How are we going to win the morning? You're going to make your bed. And I'm going to hold you accountable. So I want a text message with a picture of a made bed. Boom. Next day, 44 texts. My phone, I was like the most popular kid at my high school for one day. You know, my phone's going off nonstop. Boom, 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 boom. Here come all these pictures coming in. And I still have kids texting me every single day because they're trying to prove a point. Like, I'm still buying into this.
Yeah.
But they don't always connect the dots. Sometimes it takes time. But I'll say, listen, if you're in the batter's box and you're trying to lay off a couple of high fast ones, right? That takes discipline. You don't have discipline as a baseball player unless you have discipline as a person. So we're just trying to build the discipline in your life so that it carries over.
Yeah. And it's kind of like how you do the little things is how you do everything, right?
Okay. Excellence in small things is excellence in all things. How you do anything is how you do everything. So we're just trying to teach kind of a culture, create a culture if it's a team, create an environment if it's an individual. Like, everything I do matters.
Mm-hmm.
I go to McDonald's today, that sets me back. Nothing against McDonald's. I would never eat there, but that's just me. I don't judge.
Yeah.
But if I'm eating McDonald's, probably not fueling my body the way it needs to be fueled.
Right.
So we talked about the 4 keys to optimal living. You want to reach peak performance? You got to master the 4 keys to optimal performance. EMMS: eating, movement, mindset, sleep. If you want to get to the next level, you got to think about what you're putting into your body. You got to exercise, you got to practice the mind, and then you got to sleep. And most kids, unfortunately, they don't understand the importance of sleep to refuel them, to recharge them, to have recovery. And research says that a teenager needs about 9 hours and 15 minutes of sleep per night on average to reach peak performance. And most kids I work with, whatever level at, they're lucky to get 7. And then we wonder, like, why are they so emotional? Why are they so lackadaisical? They're not getting enough rest. So what do? We got to teach you habits.
Yeah.
You're going to put on your schedule. I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock every night. That, if it's important to you, you put it on your schedule. I don't have time. Well, guess what? We're going to put that bedtime down first, and we're going to work backwards. We're going to reverse engineer, and we're going to create time blocks, social, homework, working out, whatever is important to you, so that we know at 10 o'clock, it's PM routine, time to go to bed.
Yeah. And what's your mission and vision? Okay, you're throwing 85 and you want to get to 90. How are we going to get you there?
Right.
Well, maybe we need to put on a little bit of weight. We need to get a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. How do we do that? Well, we got to up our protein intake. We got to do all these things. Let's get it on paper. Let's get it into habit share, and then let's execute on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, so to kind of transition to our collaboration with IE Mindset, you know, I really respect what you do every day in showing up as an athletic director for St. Joe High School. I know that you take that very seriously. You execute at that at a very high level. I even heard you in the way you balance it with your life as well, with your clients, with your wife, with your kids, and you talked a little bit about this bracelet that you wear, and yep, there it is, and how you keep it in the car, but when you get in the car, you put it on and you transition, just like an athlete transitions from the classroom to the field, you transition to AD, and vice versa. You get home and you kind of you know, separate work from home, and you're present to execute at that role. That all said, okay, you've got a lot going on in your life. Talk to me about your decision to take another step and another collaboration and work with us at IE Mindset Group. What was the driving force behind that?
I'll give you 2. Number 1, I'm just living out my mission. So you talk about an MVP process. I have a personal MVP process. My mission is to inspire and educate those that I work with to become the best versions of themselves. Simple. That's why I go to work every day. It's easy. I'm not working. I'm just living out my mission. So any opportunity, whether it's coaching coaches on the weekend through the Michigan High School Athletic Association, whether it's teaching a leadership training course tomorrow in Traverse City for 42 athletic directors, whether it's Zooming with clients in the evening, whether it's talking to my coaches in my office, I'm serving my mission. That's what gets me fired up.
Yeah.
Like, I love doing it. I love seeing people make progress towards their goals. So for me, it's not work. So any opportunity I can serve, I'm all in. So along comes Billy Nash, and who gets fired up about mental performance and helping people. And I know the great work you do. I know the passion that you have. I've seen what you've done in your, we'll just call it your first career, because now you're launching your second career. And now I look at it, what an opportunity. What an opportunity to join with you at the grassroots level to make this something big. We've had enough conversations. I think that this is going to take off rather quickly. You've got a lot of great connections, and I just want to be part of it. Why? Selfishly, I get to help more people.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Really well said. Yeah, it's kind of come full circle fairly quickly. I mean, it started with a conversation in the fall at my daughter's wedding, and here we are, you know, kind of doing a little podcast talking about what the future holds. It's exciting.
Very exciting.
Absolutely. Well, look, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, Kevin, certainly they can go to iemindsetgroup.com and go to the website, register, schedule a call with us. Certainly don't want to divulge any of your other information. They can reach us at info@iemindsetgroup.com as well. But any other ways to contact you individually?
Yeah, I'll give out my email because whatever, I'm an open book. I have no problem. I love talking about this. So people just want advice or direction or resources.
Yeah.
I share. So Kevin Guzzo, KevinGuzzo, mpm@gmail.com. So Kevin Guzzo, mpm@gmail.com.
Wonderful. All right. Well, we'll leave the cell phone
I give my cell phone out too.
Joking. Absolutely.
Everybody in our community has my cell phone, so it's really not a big deal. I just may not answer very often.
Yeah. Well, it's been great. Any final thoughts?
No, I appreciate this opportunity. I mean, I appreciate the call and everything that you're doing because we're sharing the same mission. Ultimately, that's what it's about. Like, how can we help people go from good to great? How can we take people from where they are today to where they want to be in a couple of years? That's an opportunity. And that's an opportunity that I'm excited about this journey with you on.
Yeah, as well. I appreciate you coming in. I know you're heading north to Traverse City for a bit of a conference. Say hello to some of our mutual friends.
Will do.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it, Kevin.
Thanks, Bill. Great to see you.
Thank you.